So here we are, the 14th of November, 2020. Just got done with the run here. Well, I'm actually mid-run. And, some things are on my mind. Yesterday was 3 years from when my sister, Ashley, died. And it's funny, I actually didn't even remember yesterday. I think I thought about her one time, but then from a text message from my stepmother, I was reminded that, oh yeah, yesterday was 3 years. And at first, I was kind of like, oh damn, can't believe I forgot that. But then I started thinking about it a little more, and I was like, I forgot that, but not for any like dismissive, or neglectful reason, but more so, I've done some major healing in the last few years, which has allowed for me not to hold on to those times or those dates, as significantly as maybe I did when it first happened. So, the 2 years following Ashley's death, I was in a pretty remote location, and I had a lot of time to think about and consider and, come to terms with Ashley's death. And that was through different things like being out in the mountains on a hike or a run, being at home and journaling about it, just really kind of like dissecting how I felt about it, things that had happened in the past, just I guess going through all of the ebbs and flows that one does, I guess, when you're grieving for a loved one. And sometimes, which I didn't know was a thing that people did, but sometimes I would have conversations as if she were there, not like talking to her, spirit or whatever, but more so just like talking out loud as if she were in front of me, holding on a conversation as if she were in front of me, just to be able to like release some charge, release some emotional tension, or quiet my mind about things that I have to say concerning her, to her, whatever. Through that, and looking back in hindsight now, I am able to see what the whole event of Ashley's death and acceptance of Ashley's death has meant to me, and what it has residually done to me. And I think that myself and anybody in my family can agree that our preference would be that Ashley would have not died. Anybody who knew her would say that too. But there's something that happened with me personally where there was an extension of, or a creation of, or an awareness of new things in my life that I feel were motivated or inspired, or like I said, created by coming to terms with Ashley's death. There was a new line of thought from me. There was a new, I guess you could say, contemplation about life what life is, what existence is, what it means for me to be alive, what it means to die. So a whole lot of things came out of this for me, which, you know, I certainly wouldn't put all of the responsibility or the blame, so to speak, on Ashley's death. But I will say that had it not happened, well, my mind wouldn't be working in the ways that it is now, which does not mean that my preference is that it happened. Because the way that my mind thinks now and the way that I approach things and the disciplines that I have, you know, adopted and created were from that, a multitude of things, but a big part of that is all of the hurt and despair and sadness that I felt from her death, and a lot of other things that happened with me. Many other things that happened with me. So, you know, I guess what I mean to say is through that kind of destruction of her death, through the loss of life through Ashley, came, you know, the possibility for creative inspiration on my end of things. So I don't know what this means big picture. You know, I think about, you know, life and death together, and I think I have a new understanding and acceptance of life and death, and I don't think about life and death as opposites. I don't think about life just avoiding or putting off death until later and thinking that it is the worst thing that can happen to life. I do think that life is only possible in correspondence with death. I do think that death creates life and life creates death. It's cyclical, and it's an ongoing thing. So I think also one other major thing that happened with me, and, you know, thinking about, you know, what kind of really troublesome stuff that I've gotten into in my life, and then thinking about the sadness of Ashley dying, not only from myself but from my family members. I think that I adopted a new sense of responsibility for my existence. And what I mean by that is that I have come to an understanding with myself where there's nothing that has happened to me from my point of view now. There's nothing that will happen to me going forward. And there is nothing in my existence that is not, you know, my sole responsibility. Now, I don't mean that I create everything. But what I mean is that either through my action or through my reception of what happens and through my thought process, I create my world. And that is nobody else's fault or responsibility. And it never was, and it never could be, and it never will be. So, any notions of blaming an event or blaming circumstances or blaming another person for my misfortunes or for, you know, anything that happens in my life that could be perceived as negative, it goes out the window. There's never, ever going to be a time in the future where I have a blame for anybody else, because it is my action to do things. It is my reception of things that happen, and it's my thoughts behind everything which literally create and make everything in my existence. So I know this because I have the choice. I don't think that we have a whole lot of choices in life. I don't think that we have a whole lot of control in life. But I know for me personally, I have a choice to feed or follow or encourage certain thoughts. I don't think that our stream of thoughts or consciousness can be controlled, but I do think that when those thoughts come into play, negative or positive, I do have the choice to follow a negative path and dwell on negative thoughts and let those thoughts create my world, or I have the choice to understand that I can choose to follow positive, to follow encouraging, to follow motivating thoughts about myself and everything and other people. You know, the power, not in the sense of like omnipotence, but the power of the natural flow of accepting that you create your reality is a major breakthrough. It's been a major, major breakthrough for me. You know, and I'm with people all the time where we get into, you know, different events and they're like, hey, do you want to do this? Or, hey, what do you think about this? And, you know, very often I'm down for whatever. Yeah, let's go do that. Or, hey, what do you think about this? And I'd be hard pressed to find something these days where I'm not like, you know, this might suck right now, or hey, this is going really well right now, but you know what? I think it's all going to be fine in the end. I've had those thoughts before where I think everything's going to be fine. You know, different people in my life have told me that, you know, that's maybe not the best idea to have to set yourself up for some sort of a future, but I guess for me it means it doesn't matter what I get engaged in. It doesn't matter what I do going forward. Because I think that everything's going to be fine, but because it only can be fine for me, then it will be. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to struggle. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to, you know, do things that are difficult and have a hard time with it. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to fail at certain things. It just means that even though those things will happen, I know that no matter what, everything's going to be fine. It always has been and it always will be. So, I guess I just kind of wanted to say this stuff out loud. I know that a lot of different people have a lot of different receptions of and perceptions of life and the things that happen in them. And, you know, that's everybody's prerogative. That's everybody's own personal thing. The things which you come to be aware of, the things which you come to be inspired about or whatever, it's based off of your life. And, you know, that's a very, very personal thing. So I would never try to dissuade somebody out of, you know, their line of thought, because that's your own creative journey. I think the point and the essence of talking about this right now is that I was thinking about Ashley, and I was thinking about forgetting her death date. But then I was thinking about, well, I also was talking to Cassidy, and she was like, what a beautiful thing that you have the ability to forget that. And not have it be such a, you know, negatively drawn to or attentioned date or event for you. And I think through what I have done for myself, not all by my own choice, but a lot of it, through what I've done, I feel as though Ashley, in a different sense, in a non-tangible sense, in a non-physical sense. She kind of lives on through the things that I've done for myself, through the different kinds of struggles and triumphs that my family has done for themselves, which a lot of that I don't know about. But I'm sure that there is that, and I'm super stoked on that for each one of them. And so I guess, that brought me back to the notion of, through death, through the very necessary element of death, life in some form or another is created. I miss her, for sure. And my heart super goes out to my family or anybody else who is still struggling in a major way with her death. And I hope that it gets better for each person. I really do. All right. That's all. Goodbye.